You're listening to This Week in Ecommerce, the Ecom Nation podcast. Dive into the top online retail headlines with your hosts, Paul Waddy and Mal Chia. Let's load up the cart. This Week in Ecommerce, episode 58. I am Mal Chia, recording solo this week. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode than usual for a couple of reasons. Number one is that Paul is not going to be recording with me today because it's his birthday. So happy birthday to the Big Show, who is turning. I won't disclose his age. I'm going to keep that for that's information for him to disclose at his leisure. And also, I am going to be taking a week off. So before I leave, I thought I'm going to make sure that I record something to make sure we're still publishing on schedule every Wednesday, like clockwork, as we usually do. Because yet again, it has been another very big week in retail and in e-commerce specifically. Now, there's been a lot going on, and obviously a lot of noise and acceleration as we head towards Black Friday. Obviously, with a lot of events going on at the moment, I had the pleasure of attending a Meta event the other day, which talked about getting ready for peak period, for mega sales period, as they call it, MSP, but then also the multitude of BFCM-related webinars which are coming out now, all the various white papers which are being released. And I saw earlier today, Klaviyo released their 2024 consumer spending report. So that's something which I'll intend to do some light reading while on vacation, in sitting by the pool in Bali, reading the Klaviyo report, which I'll then hope to bring back to you with some insights next time. But in the meantime, though, we are going to be talking about a few stories. Number one being that step one over the last 12 months has been a real darling of not just the underwear scene in Australia, but also generally the stock market as well. Their stock has been on an absolute tear recently. So has done some pretty fantastic things. Danny Chia from, no relation, Danny Chia from Kelly Partners. This is one very early in the year. He pointed out that this is one of these stocks to watch. And you know what? He has been absolutely right. If you want to look at where they came from, at the start of the year, they were sitting at just under $1 at $9.90. Their trading has gone up to $1.69 at the close of yesterday's trading, and peaked earlier this year at 1.875, 1.9, I should say. So really quite dramatic growth. So they have more than doubled over that time. And if you look back over an even longer period, going back to when they first listed back in March of 2023, let's look a little bit longer. They've grown dramatically from 27 cents back in 2022 to where they are now. So really huge growth in this brand over that period. So what has happened with them? So they've been so popular because they've been popularizing their style of bamboo underwear for men. They've got some really great commercials, really solid branding, which has really taken off and really resonated. And now they're expanding into lots of different categories as well, moving into women's, moving into other types of garments too. But underwear as being their key product. Now, what was interesting this last week though is that their founder, Greg Taylor, sold down a portion of his shares. So he sold roughly 1.16 million ordinary shares in the company, which represented about $9 million, and for a value of $28 million. So he sold down essentially $28 million worth of shares. Now, keep in mind that number means that their total market cap is roughly about the 300 million mark, slightly under the 300 million. And now this saw that their share value did actually go down temporarily, and they did have to issue a trading halt because of the sheer volume of shares which he was selling. So their stock price went down 12% on the news of that happening. Now, I got asked this question over the last couple of weeks. Is this a reflection that step one, potentially aren't going that well, so he's looking to get out of it? And it's a fair question to ask because normally when you see someone sell a large portion of their shares, particularly a founder, it does raise a question about what is the future of the company, particularly if you pair that with the fact that they have slow economic growth, let's say. So an example of this would be Donald Trump and Truth Media, which Truth Social, I should say, or Truth Media, which has not grown, has actually has had negative user growth, and the founders of that company have started dumping their shares. So in that case, you'd probably look at that and say, something's not right there. Sounds a bit like a Ponzi scheme. In this case, though, it's a little bit different in the sense that Step One is still performing extremely well. The last set of financials show that they are continuing to grow year on year, which is obviously fantastic for them. So in terms of their CEO looking to sell down some shares, it's actually perfectly normal, particularly when you start this company and then you do have some sort of liquidity event like being publicly traded. He probably had a lockup period where he was unable to sell his shares, and they've been trading for about 2 years now, 2 years on the market. So it was probably about a 24-month period where he was unable to sell his shares, which is fairly common. The Guzman and Gomez founders have the exact same period as well, where they can't sell their shares for a period. So he's probably got to his time where he's invested so much time and energy and capital into growing this business that now he just wants to enjoy some of the fruits of his labor, which means that he can sell down some of his shares. So as his lockup period has ended, he's sold down some shares to be able to make that liquid so that he can actually get some cash back in his pocket, which is fantastic. As a founder, that's exactly what you want. That's why you start the business. You start the business so that you can reap the rewards of it. And in this case, the rewards are worth $28 million. Now, this also means that he continues to also hold a pretty substantial share in the business. So even though he's sold down 8.97% of his holding of the total holdings, he still retains 57.91%. So he still holds 2/3 of the business. He still owns 2/3 of the business, which is by any measure a very substantial shareholding. So by no means is this a reflection that Step One are in trouble. Matter of fact, it's probably a reflection that they are going to continue to grow and they are performing really, really strong. And he reiterated that as well in the press release, just to say that he's excited about Step One's growth opportunities and continues to be as committed and driven to achieve our global growth ambitions, and also continues to be a substantial shareholder and wishes to remain a substantial shareholder in the business. And you can see that where they improved their new customer acquisition by 312,000 in the last 12 months, the last financial year, for a total of 1.6 million customers globally, which is a fantastic result. So Step One, well done to you. Greg Taylor, fantastic work on Step One. I wish I'd listened to Danny earlier and bought your shares when he told me to earlier in the year before you started peaking in the last 6 or so months. So anyway, always need to be quicker with those sort of decisions. All right, we are going to move on to the next story, which is Mosaic Brands, who we talked about before. And I don't mean to harp on Mosaic. They just happen to be in the news a lot. But in this case, this last week, they have actually shedded a few of their brands. So in a very bold move by CEO Erica Berchtold, they have decided to remove a few of their brands. They are winding down 5 brands: Rockman's, Autograph, Crossroads, W Lane, and Be Me brands. So instead, they can focus on their core brands, such as Katie's, Miller's, Rivers, etc. So as a part of this move, this is obviously a move towards becoming more profitable and sustainable. And it makes perfect sense. Like, rather than continuing to invest into brands which aren't performing for them and where they're struggling, move it towards what is actually working for you, and you can reduce your cost base by doing that. So a great move. But what was interesting about this story was that Kmart is cited as being one of the reasons why they've had to wind down some of these brands. And this is one of the ongoing trends we've seen this year, which is all around trading down, that we see a lot of customers, particularly with the cost of living pressures, looking to trade down from what they would normally buy. So in their case, they've got some brands here like Rockman's, Autograph, Crossroads, which may have at some point had a customer. They may have been loyal customers who've gone there. But with the cost of living pressure and with the lack of distinction between those brands, like we've talked about before, that they're all very much sort of like aiming for that same middle-aged, middle-income suburban woman, that in a cost of living crisis where there's not enough differentiation, those same customers have then sought to trade down. So what they've seen is that Kmart have actually grown quite a lot in the women's fashion area. So we talk a lot about how Shein and Temu are doing a lot of disruption there, but also Kmart has as well. So obviously with their brand Anko, which is now pretty much visible anywhere. I'm looking at a couple of Anko products in my office right now. They're now looking to wholesale that product. That's coming in at a very low price, a very affordable product, which it becomes a product which people are happy to trade down to because it's also pretty good quality, or at least it's good enough quality. And the same thing has happened with fashion, where Kmart have actually been really great with releasing some really affordable fashion items. So when you're making that choice between buying that staple black blouse and you're looking at it to buy it from Rockman's, you then decide, okay, well, maybe, you know what, I'm just going to get it from Kmart instead, because Kmart is cheaper than them. It's a much bigger brand. So that also then brings with it connotations that, it might be also be, more better quality, more reputable than Rockman's. So that's what customers have done. They have traded down. They've then made that decision to trade down. At the same way as well, people are also trading up, which we don't really talk about a lot before, but that's because most people are looking to trade down in the cost of living crisis. And that's something which we're seeing across the board with people making those decisions now of like, well, I don't really want, like, if I can't see the difference between it, I'm always going to buy the cheaper option, which then goes back to something which we talk about a lot, which is the importance of creating a brand, the importance of creating distinction between you and the other brands in your space. Because what you don't want is that you don't want people to compare. You want them to make a choice between this or that. The choice shouldn't be between, well, I'm just comparing, is Rockman's as good as Kmart, or do I really just want Rockman's? Hence why you then make that choice to buy Rockman's. And that's really just the essence of branding. The essence of branding about figuring out what is it about your brand which is going to make you so distinct in the market that people make the choice to buy you. They're not comparing different options because they have chosen you as the option. So that's really the challenge for a lot of brands here, because right when you're in that middle space, which most brands are, you are getting squeezed and you're seeing it more and more across every single category. I obviously spend a lot of time in the apparel and the activewear space, and a lot of those brands who've typically been in that messy middle section are really getting squeezed now and having to make that choice. Whereas the brands who are deliberately playing at the lower end or at the upper end, you don't see them having the same struggles because people have made that conscious decision to trade down or trade up to buy those brands. So the lesson for everyone here is to really think about, if you are in that messy middle, what are you doing to force customers to make that choice between buying you and buying someone else? Because you don't want them to be comparing you. You want them to be choosing you. All right, and we are now going to finish off with our last story, which is from one of my favorite brands, Lululemon. They have been publishing for the last few years the Global Wellness Report. Now, what this is a study of 15 countries around the world to look at what the attitudes towards well-being is, and looking at what the trends are across different countries. And what they found is really, really surprising. Where the TLDR of it is that the fact that there has been such focus on well-being over the last few years, well-being and self-care, this real drive for people to improve our well-being has actually made us less well. Now, this is making us less well because there's this pressure now for us to keep up. There's this pressure to feel that we're doing the right thing when it comes to nutrition, exercise, just general self-care and things like that. That now 1 in 2 people are experiencing well-being burnout. And they also feel powerless about it as well. That because of those 1 in 2 people, 2/3 of them, 2 in 3, are feeling that they can't actually do anything about it. They feel that they're completely a victim to this, and there's nothing they can do to resolve that problem, which then exacerbates the problem about well-being. So most interesting, though, is that Australia, in addition to being one of those countries which is most aware about well-being and where people are mostly saying that they aspire towards well-being, we are also the number 1 country which has well-being burnout. And it's becoming through three areas. The 3 drivers of this are that feeling about the societal expectations, that we need to keep up with appearances. We need to make sure that we are doing all the things, whether it be running, yoga, going to the gym, eating the right foods and nutrition. That pressure to feel that we're doing the right thing is a leading cause of that. But then also 53% of people who are suffering well-being burnout are saying it's because of the conflicting information, that there's just so much noise out there around the place that they don't know where to start. They don't know about the best place to start with their well-being because they're hearing lots of different things and they can't make that decision up. And then the number one contributing factor is that they feel that they're alone in this. That loneliness is a big factor in why people are feeling well-being burnout. So when you tie all that together, there is a real opportunity here. There is a real opportunity here for brands to help in this area, to help people feel less overwhelmed when it comes to well-being. Because I don't think there's anyone out there which would say that well-being, is a myth, or self-care, you shouldn't do any of that. Everyone is saying that you need to do more self-care. You need to look after your health and well-being more and more than ever. We've become very cognizant of that post-COVID. But because everyone is contributing to the noise, and there's so many brands now contributing to the noise, it's really hard to find the best information. It's really hard to feel that you're doing the right thing, which is then creating this sense of burnout. So the opportunity then for brands is to flip those three things on its head, to flip those societal expectations, the conflicting information, and also that sense of loneliness, to flip it on its head. And the three takeaways I would say for any brand who's in this space, who's in this health and fitness space now, is to flip this around, to actually say that, do you know what? Those societal expectations, forget about them, that everyone needs to run their own race, that everyone's version of well-being is completely different, no matter what that is. So showing well-being in lots of different ways, lots of different shapes, sizes, busy mums who can only get out to the gym, once or twice a week, shift workers who have to squeeze in a workout at night. There is no right when it comes to it. That there's no right way to do it, and everyone needs to find their right way of doing it. But then also simplifying that information as well, playing against the grain and actually simplifying what's out there, helping to either demystify this whole space around fitness and well-being and provide simple solutions, just a really simple way for people to consume that. A brand which does this incredibly well is Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens have been absolutely booming over the last 3 to 5 years. And a lot of that is about the fact that they have been able to just simplify well-being by just taking all those essential nutrients and putting it into just a simple green drink, which you just powder, which you mix up every morning and you drink. And then you know you've done something really good for yourself. They simplified that whole experience. Happy Mammoth, another brand which is doing that as well globally in a lot of different areas. Also really simplifying it by providing really straightforward solutions to people's problems and issues. And then finally, around the point of going it alone, is that the need now for community is so great that people want to feel connected with other people. So being able to find a place, whether online or in person, where you can bring your community together so that people feel like they're part of something is going to be really key. That's why you're seeing this real rise in in-person events, people getting out there and creating events for their community to come together. Shout out to Muscle Republic, who are doing this on a very, very regular basis. And also brands like LSKD as well. And also in an online fashion, you look at brands like Keisha, Yes Please Health, who are creating online communities of like-minded people to share and connect with each other and feel that they're not alone. So hopefully this gives you guys some ideas about how you can take these insights and put them to practice in your own brand to be culturally relevant. Because ultimately, the difference between a Me Too brand and a brand which is a trailblazer and doing great things is cultural relevance. And it's by tapping into insights like this and acting on them, which can help turn your brand from good to great. All right, that's all for me this week. We'll be back next week with Paul. Also should add as well that I will be speaking at South by Southwest on Wednesday the 16th. So if you are going to South by Southwest, I really look forward to seeing you there. I'll be speaking at 10 a.m. at the ICC Sydney in the main stage there. So I'm looking forward to seeing some people there. We've got a lot going on over the next few months with various awards and events, and obviously with Black Friday as well. So I hope to all of you listening that you are well and truly into your Black Friday preparations and you know exactly what offer you're going to do. You know what targets you're hitting, you're aiming for. But if you don't, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have a chat with you. That's all for this week.